Alex Ziabko joins us from LA to discuss all things Everton, the recent Merseyside Derby win over Liverpool, and their prospects at Europe for next season. Not much changes at the top, with City beating Arsenal and Leicester and United winning, but everyone's favorite London team, West Ham, beat Tottenham to go into the top four. We down here in the Rat Tail Bunker and Barbershop Studio, and this is the Boys In Bolos podcast. Welcome back to the Boys In Bolos podcast. We down here in the Rat Tail Bunker and Barbershop Studio. Jarrett, it is week 25. We're in it. We're here.
We just finished week 25, yeah.
Yeah, well.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
13 weeks left, baby.
That's it.
And then Tottenham will be champions.
Europa League champions.
Carabao
Cup
champions.
winners.
God, if you guys win the Europa League, that's going to be a rough situation because I think Chelsea, or we have an Everton guest on tonight. Alex, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm enjoying listening to this, the high hopes for Tottenham right now.
Yeah, they're not very high. It's been a rough 2021.
I could tell Alex likes a good comedy show.
Yeah, it's good.
He's got an eye for talent. But you know what's rough is that if Tottenham were to win the Europa League, this is like something that could happen, and it would be so 2021. If Chelsea or Everton were to finish fourth, which I think at this point is the highest we'll finish, I think the Manchester teams and Leicester are going to take the top three. I don't really see anything shaking. They look good, all three teams. If either of our teams finish being Chelsea or Everton in the fourth, and Jeff's team wins the Europa League, which means they qualify for the Champions League. At least this is what happened in 2012 when Chelsea won the Champions League. We knocked Tottenham out of the fourth place. So I don't know if that would happen, but that would be super sour if Everton were to get into the Champions League, get in the fourth place, Tottenham win, and then Jose boots them out.
Don't think that's how it works anymore.
I actually don't know. But that would be so 2021 for either Chelsea or especially Everton that's been working extremely hard to like.
I never write off Jose Mourinho. I just don't. Like that guy just somehow he turns it around, and I still think Tottenham's going to make a run. This is interesting maybe for you guys to hear. I picked them to win the Prem this year. That was when the season started. I did. I really thought he was going to do it again. I kind of don't know where he's going wrong right now. I think there's several things that we can sort of look at. But yeah, I picked them to win the Prem. So I never write that guy off ever.
He's also, I think Elie brought this up on a text or maybe on the pod, I don't remember, but in his second season, he always wins titles, trophies. He's very successful in his second season.
Interesting.
Obviously, when he first got to Chelsea, he had the first two seasons were championships back to back, but with Inter Milan, it was like the second season. Actually, no, Inter Milan might have been season one, but with Real Madrid, it was the second season. With Porto, it was the second season. He started to, kind of feel out the land, both on and off the field, because I think one of Jose Mourinho's magic, and he still continues to do it now with social media, the dude's just like a PR wizard. He's kind of like the Donald Trump of professional football in the sense that, like, when he talks, you're going to listen, even if you hate what he's saying, mm-hmm. in that kind of like, I can't look away, but I want to, oh God, he's talking again. Because everything Jose says, I love. And after the game this week, the media person or the person who's interviewing, he was like, hey, Jose, do you think what you're doing is right? Like, basically trying to say how much of Tottenham's poor performances that you could say are his fault, right? Because as the manager, he should take responsibility. And he basically, do you remember the quote?
He basically said, it's not, I'm doing everything right.
Yeah, he says, he's like, me and my technical staff are second to none in the way that we groom players.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of like, this dude has just stones.
Yeah.
He's in ninth in the Premier League, and he's just got stones.
They did. I mean, they should have beat that West Ham team. They got unlucky. I thought they outplayed West Ham for like 75% of the game. But the problem with Tottenham, they only need like literally one play to give up a goal because they have like a guy who ball watches Dyer and Sanchez who falls in his face. And they don't have a center back pair. They don't have a center back pairing that's like worthy of Premier League soccer. Like they're not good enough. They're just not good enough.
Yeah. How about that FA Cup between Everton and Tottenham? I mean, that was probably one of the most exciting games I've seen in a very long time. And because both of our defenses were absolutely horrendous. I mean, Jarrett literally like what that one goal that he gave up when we were up 2-1, I think it was or whatever it was. It was just like through his legs, and I'm just like, I can't. Like, what is this guy doing? And Yarmine is like maybe that like like that how Dyer's feel. Like I love the guy. I think he is a great center back. The issue I have with him is that he's like he pulls a Jordan Pickford once in a while. It's like you're just like, what were you thinking in that play? Like you completely like spaced out and didn't pay attention to what was happening in the game. And that was that one goal. I can't remember who scored it for Tottenham, but it was just such a bonehead play that I remember like texting with my wife's brother, who's a big Everton supporter, and he was just like, I love and hate Mina, and I'm like, literally, it's the same thing. Like, I love and hate Jordan Pickford. Like, I love the guy when he has a game like he had, this past weekend, and then I hate him like the last time, like last season we played at Anfield, or 2 seasons ago, whatever it was, where it was like 91st minute, and he instead of just putting the ball over the net, he like tries to catch it and it goes in, but it's tricky, like these.
Dyer's the exact same player. To be honest, like he'll be like man of the match. He'll like be like man of the match, and then he'll like foul a guy in the box like crazily and give a penalty, and you're just like, what are you doing, Dyer? Like, what are you doing?
Did Sanchez play in that FA Cup game? Because if Sanchez played, that's just super brutal for me as a Colombian American, because it's like my 2 center backs are Colombia. This is why Colombia is so god awful, because you have Sanchez and Jerry Mina holding down for it. And like Jerry Mina is better than Sanchez. I don't think many people argue that. Clearly, in order to get all the way to Barcelona, I know he got loaned out exceedingly quick, but to get to Barcelona, you have to be a stud on some level. Then he got loaned out. He scored the goal against England in the World Cup to tie it in the last seconds.
World famous goal.
And I was going like ape shit because, England is a team that was destined to go far in that, and Colombia was also a strong team, but yeah, anyway, so if that was both Sanchez and Mina as a Colombian, I'm like rough to see that game, that there's 9 goals in a soccer game. And I feel like whether Sanchez was directly involved or indirectly involved, a center back can leave somebody onside. It's easy to let goals in if you're not thinking as a center back.
Dyer gets caught ball watching, and instead of like attacking the ball, especially on crosses, I think is his weakest. He'll just be like,
crosses are his weakness. That's rough for a center back. That's like
passing
is my weakness.
That's why he should
be so good.
Yeah, he shouldn't be playing center back. He should be playing a center defensive midfield.
Let's talk about the Liverpool Everton game. Let's shift a little bit and let's talk about the defensive stuff in that game, because Jordan Henderson's injury. Do you think you win if Henderson doesn't go out?
It's tough to say. It could probably be a draw. It was very obvious what Carlo wanted to do. He knew we need to absorb the pressure, and he knew because they were weak in the back and they had some young guys playing in the back, that the speed of Everton was going to have the opportunity to counter. The perfect example was the second goal. I know that we'll talk about that. It's controversial. I don't think it's controversial, but people could talk about it all day long. But that was the classic like counterattack. Like, and that's what he sort of set it up. Like even the first goal, right? Like you look at that, Decore's in the mid, so to clog that up completely. And then Hummus he's that first touch out of the air is just unbelievable. And as quickly as Liverpool closed down, he gave that beautiful pass to Richarlison, and Richarlison made no mistake. Thank God, because he's made plenty of them this season. But I think it's a draw. I don't know. Liverpool had quite large spells of possession, and as they should, because they're at home and they are Liverpool and they're defending, their title against also an Everton team that's not they were not quite healthy. Neither are they. So I'm not making excuses for Everton at all. But I just think Carlo's plan was punch them on a counterattack, because that's what he knew. We had the speed up front to do that. So, which I guess you could say is evident in both goals, but maybe, I don't. It's tough to say. It was a tough injury, because at first I thought Decore made a foul that obviously injured him, and then I was like, here we go with the headlines again. Everton's injuring all the Liverpool players, but it was a non-contact injury, which is going to probably be very a long time for him to recover, especially in the groin area. So maybe, I don't know the right answer is. Looking back at it, I think Everton executed the game perfectly, and obviously that's easy to say as an Everton fan, but just they defensively were just probably the best game I've ever seen them play in a long time. And Liverpool's had chances, by the way, where they do the crosses into the box. That's their specialty. They had moments, but I also thought Jordan Pickford probably played the best game maybe in the last 2 seasons, in my opinion.
Yeah, he saved that shot from Henderson.
Oh, and also Salah, that one-on-one. Yeah. That Henderson
so he saved like basically a first-time shot from Henderson right outside the box. That was an amazing save. He just pushed it out wide. And then Trent
Arnold from outside too. That ball, I think that might have been going over, but he still tipped it over just to be sure. And then the Salah, I think was the best moment. That was it. Like when he broke in, I was like, he's in. That's it. And then Pickford.
Yep.
outstanding.
Yeah, because there's definitely games where I thought that Pickford's looked shaky, to say the least, in terms of, being the number one goalkeeper for England, and sometimes he makes these weird he doesn't make the save he should make, and he's kind of looks lost out there. But I thought he played exceptionally well, probably the best game of the season by far. He's coming off an injury. Is that right? I mean,
he had an injury, and Olsen was, it's funny, like Olsen for a while there. I was like, hey, just start this guy, this guy. And then Olsen at that game against Tottenham made some mistakes, and I was just like, maybe not. The thing what was so important for Pickford to start against Liverpool is that counter, right? Like he's so good, Jordan Pickford, at taking the ball and distributing it. Like Olsen doesn't do that. He can't do that. So that's why I feel when they line up with Olsen, like they'll try to play out of the back. Pickford just launches it, which just gives an opportunity for someone like DCL, who's really good at holding the ball up for Richarlison to sort of come in and help. That's why when I thought in that game when DCL got injured against Tottenham, I thought we were going to lose. Like I was like, there's no way, because there's nobody going to be able to hold the ball up. And then obviously what happened. But so he's so good at distributing the ball that it was so important for him to get healthy for this Liverpool game, because that was the big part of like what the game plan was.
I also think that Liverpool's been particularly, I guess, unsharp. I guess not clinical, I guess maybe is the best word to describe it in the past, 4 or 5 games, just not scoring as many goals as you'd expect them to score. Salah will score the occasional, a goal here every other game because he's Salah, and he's obviously the best player in the team at this point. But they're just not, the Firmino, Salah, Mane trio just isn't like firing as it has in the past. So I think
why do you think that is, though?
I just think that it's always the thing with the trio, thing. It lasts a couple of years and then it kind of dies off, and I don't know. They can't all be in form at the same time. And
I think teams have figured out Klopp. I think they figured out how to defend against them and even to his adjustments, right? Like you go back to Dortmund, like he almost got them relegated. Like people forget about that. He almost got Dortmund relegated, and it's like, which is crazy to think about. I think people might have just figured him out a little bit. Listen, you might not be, like you said, you might not have all three in perfect shape, but you don't lose 7-2 to Aston Villa. You just don't as champions. Like I think this. I don't know what the statistic is, but I heard on when they talk about Premier League, they said this is the biggest drop off in the history of Premier League for like a team that's won the year before to where they are now, which is crazy to think about.
Chelsea actually, after one of the years they lost, they also dropped off, but I don't think it was as precipitous. And the Chelsea team that won wasn't as good as this Liverpool that won. So the extremes have definitely been expanded. And as far as the top 3, it's a very good question. I don't know if there's one answer. I think whenever you have 3 guys like that, they just can't go forever. They've been scoring at a high level for about 2 or 3 years. And in the last 12 months, they've definitely dropped off. I mean, Firmino's a shell of what he was. Mane's really slowed down. He maybe gets a goal or an assist every other game, or he used to get a goal or assist every game. Salah's numbers are still freakish. And if they don't have Salah, if he gets injured, honestly, Liverpool could finish as high as 8th. And I know someone's going to hear that and be like, oh, that's crazy, but they're just not producing. And I think when you don't have the balls coming through the midfield and getting into their feet, they're having to pick the ball up 10 to 15 yards farther away from goal. So they're doing more work to get the same result as far as a shot on goal. Right. And I just think that, and once again, I'm sure if you looked at the heat map and you looked at kilometers ran, you would see that those 3 have had to do a lot more work since Jordan Henderson's come out of the midfield, since Wijnaldum has been pushed farther back. Since Jota gets hurt, right? He was doing so much out of the midfield and on the wings and wherever Klopp would play him. But there is something to be said that honestly, maybe they're just figuring out Klopp. Every system runs its gamut. The Real Madrid, they win 4 out of 5 Champions League. They do okay in the domestic, but they destroy Europe. Then they get knocked out of Champions League the next year in the round of 16. Barcelona has a freakish team from about 2009 through about 2012, and then they kind of drop off and go into oblivion. They lose to Bayern in 2000. They lose to Chelsea in 2012 in the Champions League, and then they lose to Bayern in 2013 when Bayern won the Champions League. I think over 2 legs. They lost like 7-1. So definitely once a team has that much tape and you can just watch and see what do we need to do. And with Barcelona, it was like, all right, let's just it's not Xavi, it's not Iniesta, it's not Messi. We have to shut down Sergio Busquets. And with Liverpool, I think it's just Jordan Henderson. When he's not on the field, they're not a title winning team. Never mind when he has to play in the center back, and then never mind when he's just not on the field. So I think there's a lot of things, but it is if I'm like Firmino, I don't know. I mean, he must be seeing like a psychologist. How does he drop off that much? There was a time when Bobby Firmino could do no wrong, and he was world class this and world class that, and starting for Brazil. Next World Cup, I don't even think Firmino's on the lineup. So he's going to go from winning the Premier League and the Champions League to not being on the lineup because they have Jesus and it's Brazil. So there's like a bunch of other guys you can go to. One of the things, though, I wanted to ask is, do you think Jeff asked us in the last pod?
You can ask it. Go ahead.
Can I ask a question?
Take my question.
Would you like to ask the
question?
No,
you take it. I think you can phrase it better. Go ahead.
I won't phrase it better. I'm just going to protect him a little more.
Go ahead. No, it doesn't. It's just a question.
He's like Baby Yoda to me. You know, he's cute. So, Hummus, are Everton better or worse with Hummus? Are they better with Hummus or are they better without Hummus?
You look at the game this weekend, much better. I mean, that first goal, that first touch, that first pass, there's nobody on the team that can do that. It really isn't. And then there's not many players in the Prem that can do that, I think. The issue, I think, is that he's had a slow start, and then he's also had quite a bit of injuries this year. So he hasn't quite been there playing all the time. I think he's still adjusting to the England, the Liverpool weather, which is harsh. And just being you talk about, being in Madrid to then switching to the UK, it's a completely different thing. And I know there's rumors that came out before the derby that he was unhappy, whatever that may be, and that he wants to potentially go for Athletico, whatever it is. I don't know if those are true. I think that's, just people making shit up because maybe he looks sometimes when he's also the guy, if you look at him, he doesn't like when people tackle him. It's very obvious. He hates it because maybe he's afraid of being injured. And that's clearly proven that he is quite, injury prone. So I just don't think he likes the weather. I think the team is absolutely much better with him. There's very few left footers out there that can do the things that he can do. And very few, if you look at some of the games that when he's playing at his high level, the vision from the long passes across, switching the field, I mean, they're chef's kiss. The production is the accuracy, the speed, the intensity to sort of, for a counterattack, it's perfect, right? You give him the ball and he just delivers it to one of the guys up front. So I think with him, they're much better. I think we need some more pieces around them. And I think when Alon got injured, because this has been such a, you look at him when we first started the season, the flying start that Everton had, it was we had a healthy team. Everybody was clicking and it was buying into the system. And then obviously the injuries started happening. Dine got hurt and was out for 2 months. And then obviously Hummus got hurt. And then Alon's been out for what's going to be, I think, approaching 2.5 months, almost 3 months. I think he's back now training. So we'll see. But it was a bad injury in the hamstring. So it's I think with some few more pieces around him, he'll be even better. But you're also talking about a guy who didn't really play at Real Madrid for quite a while, was sitting on the bench for a while. So maybe there's a fitness thing there. There's Premier League is the fastest league in the world. It's the chippiest league in the world as well. So I think he's adjusting the speed of the game. And I know Carlos downplayed that quite a bit, but you could tell he's adjusting. You can tell sort of he's getting used to the speed. So I think if he sticks around, the answer is, there's a long answer, but yes, absolutely. I think it's very evident this week, and it's very evident some of the games where he is, feeling 100%.
It's fitting that in typical Boys and Ballers fashion, I asked the question and he turns around and has one of the best games of the season. He has an assist and just plays solid all around. Yeah, that's just how it works. I think. Yeah, I think I even asked her, he might have scored a goal even after I asked the question. So obviously they're good. I mean, he's a very, very good player, world-class player. And I'm not trying to take away from Hummus but he's been injured and he has been out of the lineup quite a bit. Maybe not as much as Alon or in some of the other players, but yeah, I only asked because they were winning games without him. Yeah. So it's an interesting question to ask.
That's the Don Carlo. That's the Carlo Ancelotti effect. The guy he gets players to buy in, and it's the next man up mentality hasn't been greater than now for Everton, right? Alon got injured. I remember when he got injured, I was oh my God, our season's we're going to be awful. Because he's such a leader, but also he's just so dynamic in that mid, he stops plays from developing. He's just, look what's happening. They've done just fine. Yes, they've had a few games where they should, Newcastle with were just really bad performance of Fulham, or really bad performance of Flat. But without him, they've managed to to win some really big games, including the one the FA Cup game against Tottenham, and then obviously the game this weekend. So like uh, I think it's tough, but I think that's all in the manager. It comes down to that. But I could see where you sort of raise the concerns, right? Because you look at even the Liverpool game, right? And they take him off, I think, like 70th minute. I'm not sure what the exact time was. A star player would play 90 minutes, right? Like that's just a fact. So you could sort of see maybe the fitness isn't there, right? Like, yeah. So I think that's where it's sort of where there's sort of this concern about him. Does he fit or doesn't he fit?
I'll be really surprised if he leaves because he's been with Ancelotti now. This is his third time. Ancelotti was the guy who brought him into Real Madrid, I'm fairly sure, after the 2014 World Cup where he scored the banger and scored 6 goals in 5 games. I mean, that's stupid. And then he plays in Bayern under Ancelotti. And then he plays in Everton. So
in Bayern, Carlo loaned him out like he wanted him to come from Real. So like there is definitely like a relationship for sure.
There's a total relationship. So I would be really surprised if he were to leave. I also think that we're getting close to the 2022 World Cup, and players have to be very realistic and very strategic about where they're playing, how much time they're playing, and the amount of PT that they're going to get. Because that's super important as you build up to a World Cup. I don't care if Hummus is playing at Real Madrid or Bayern or Everton, but as a Colombian, I want him just playing. I don't even care if he's on Everton and they're at 11th or 12th. If he's playing and getting in, getting week in and week out fitness going into the World Cup, that's great. And I hope he sees that and understands that too, because I think sometimes players, I don't know, they expect that when they show up to the World Cup, they're going to be better because they've been playing on a higher club, even if they've been playing lower minutes. And I think Iceland will prove, no, you just got to be playing minutes. Like Sigurdsson, as you said, when he's on Iceland, he's like Sigurdssonino. The guy was ridiculous. He was just dialing it up. And I guess my question about Everton is, famously, Roberto Martinez, when he got the Everton job, they said he had like a 30-second interview. Because he came in, he sat down. Roberto Martinez, as we know, is like, he's a cerebral coach. He's a genius. He's wonderful to listen to. And they sat down, and he said, I want this job. And they're like, okay, tell us why. And he said 2 words. And they said Champions League. And they said, okay, so, that's it. Because Everton's, that's the next logical step for the club. They need to be fighting for top 4, and then from top 4, then you can fight for the cup. What do you think realistically are Everton's chances this year to get top 4?
It's tough. It really is. I think top 6 is expected, right? Like I think Europe's expected. I think Champions League is a bonus. That's how I look at it as a fan. I mean, if we go top 4, you might find me streaking down LA. Like for real. Like I would be that excited because I don't know if it's realistic. We're in the thick of it, right? So like we're there, which is the most important thing. We're there. We're fighting for it. Would I be disappointed if we missed out? Sure, if it was close, but I just want to make Europe. Because I think that's where you attract more players to build, to then go to I think next year Champions League is expected, right? Like next year is expected, I think, as an Evertonian, especially with Carlo. And I think they will strengthen in the offseason properly. There's all these rumors flying around with the different players that he wants to bring in. So they will strengthen, there's no doubt. But I think for me, Champions League is a bonus this year.
I think for Everton, they have to make Europe because they have to attract talent and retain talent. You hear of like some players like DCL and Hummus, wanting to go play in Europe and play in European soccer. And if a team comes knocking, willing to pay DCL, pay a big transfer fee, I think they'll take it. But if they make Europe, they'll say, well, we're going to keep DCL, we need him, and then we can get X player, Y player, Z player, and further strengthen for a European push. And so I totally agree. I think top 6 is very realistic.
I think top 6 is like 1 and 3 right now, which is great odds at this point because it's still so competitive.
Might be even higher.
How is West Ham?
Yeah.
Like I'm just like my mind.
One word.
Lingardinho.
Yeah.
Lingardinho.
Yeah. Lingardinho. All of a sudden, he's been taking compound V. For those of you who watch The Boys, he's out of control. Like him and his little Pied Piper dance. I saw it and I was like, I'm dead. I'm dead on the inside.
To be fair, that game, they should feel very lucky they walked away with 3 points.
Were you able to catch that game? Because Jeff's right. Tottenham were on top of Everton for the last 40 minutes. There were times it was like a shooting gallery. Everton was just sitting back and soaking up
Not
pressure
Everton,
and soaking.
West Ham.
Yeah.
Sorry, West Ham. Fabianski was standing on his head.
Interesting.
It was
I did not watch it, but I did see the result, and I was so disappointed because I was rooting for Tottenham to win that game just because I'm just like it makes me sick watching West Ham on top of Everton right now. I'm just like, ugh. I know we played them in a couple of weeks, which should be good, but yeah, listen, it's tough, man. Like this season is so up and down, right? It's just, and it's going to continue, I think, to go that way until the finish line. And I agree with you to the point of retaining players, right? Like Luka Dean's contract, so what the word is that they've agreed on terms. Carlos said last week he was supposed to sign. He didn't sign. I think Luka Dean wants to know where they finish because he wants to play in Europe. Now, I think, yes, this last weekend, this win at Liverpool, I think that might do it. I think he might sign this week because if the deals are, if the terms are agreed to and he's happy and I think what he sent out a tweet and it was like, or Instagram message of a picture of the team celebrating. He wrote this team with a heart. And it's like, maybe he was holding off to see if because this game was so crucial to see where, and I think maybe but I agree with you. I think DCL to me is still someone who loved the kid. I think he's incredible, but I still think he's got a long way to go. I still think right now his production's increased because of Carlo. I don't know if that happens if you go someplace else, And again, that's just me because I'm such a huge. This is how big of a fan I am of Carlo. Just FYI. But
Listeners don't see it, but he's got a book of Carlo Ancelotti.
He has this book with this very serious ASMR face. Silent leadership.
Yeah, I recommend
quiet leadership.
Quiet leadership. Yeah. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. I agree with you. I think that they have to go in Europe to get more talent that Carlo wants and needs to go for Champions League, and I think to retain some of the talent that they have. Yeah.
And that's a perfect segue into the question that I have. Thinking about Everton next year, let's say you're in top 6 or top 4, it doesn't matter. You're in European competition. You need to then, to be really successful in Europe, you need to have 2 full squads because injuries are going to happen. You're all of a sudden, you're playing 25% more games. You're traveling so many more miles. Let's assume money isn't an object and you could bring in a player. Who would you bring in? And then I'm going to ask you, actually, who's your dream player that you really can't afford but you'd love to add to the squad and why? And then who's the player who you realistically think you can bring in either from another Premier League team or from, take your pick across all the leagues in Europe?
Damn, that's a good one. The dream, I get so much flack for this, but I love Messi. I enjoy watching that guy play, and I know his contract is up. But there's no way we're gonna get Messi. It's just not happening.
That's fair.
That is the
Messi.
ultimate dream. And I know people still say oh, maybe he's past this prime. No, nope. That dude. He's still got it. He's miserable and he's playing in a team that he doesn't want to play on. That's or for not a team, organization, or the leaders in the organization that he doesn't want to play for. God, players that I think I would love from the Premier League. I definitely think we need to get another striker, right? I think DCL's great, and we got Josh King obviously for the time being. I don't think he stays because his contract is up, and I don't think that they're gonna. I do love the guy. I think him and Wilson from Bournemouth were the 2 players that I was monitoring for a while, and I was bummed that Wilson chose Newcastle. I was hoping we were gonna get him, and then we got King. I was excited because we initially wanted to buy him, and I think they wanted something 30 million, and we ended up paying 7 for him now because his contract is up anyway. But I do think we need somebody else. And
Callum Wilson will be nice. There's a really good chance that Newcastle goes down.
Oh, by the way, yeah, let's not even go there. That's crazy. That's a sinking ship, and Fulham is going to probably stay up, I think. But that'd be great. Love the guy. I think he's amazing. He's someone that is also just so good. Dominic Cameron was really good in the box, right? I think outside of that, when he takes the ball out, you don't really expect much from him. I think Wilson changes that. He's a speedster, but I love Antonio at West Ham. I do. As somebody who somebody that holds the ball, physical, and what a season he's having. He's
a little injury prone, but he's a poacher, which is good.
Yeah.
Very good. Knows what he's doing in the box. Can score.
Since the restart, he's probably been top 5 most efficient players as far as minutes to goals ratio. And once again, that's just a feeling. I'm not looking at any stat. I'm just thinking because he had that one game where he scored 4 goals in the restart. It was just unreal. And now that he's back with West Ham, it shows. He scores against Tottenham. He's right on the mark. Coming back from an injury, he's just ready to go. He'd be either he or Wilson would be phenomenal pickups for Everton should they get in top 6.
Yeah, and I know it's interesting. I love getting players from other leagues for sure. But there's something about, and we're seeing it with like Timo Werner, like players having a hard time coming from other leagues to the Premier League, right? Because by the way, I have all the love for Chelsea. I love so many of those players. I just think you look at a guy who is so productive for Red Bull, right? Like just so productive in the Bundesliga to now, and obviously productive for the national team, the German national team, to now the drop off is massive. And I get it. It's same thing with Hummus, like adjusting to the league, the speed, the way the defenders are playing. It's a different league. So I think Timo is still going to be phenomenal for Chelsea long term. But that's the thing. It's like you get players from other leagues and you don't realize how physical and how much faster the Premier League is. I mean, it's really, I think, rare where you see a player adapt like instantaneously. So for me, it's like picking, if you're a team in Premier League, try to pick someone from the Premier League because they understand the speed. At least they've been playing it for a while.
I love that strategy. I love that strategy of players because I think the Premier League tries to go out and get big names all the time, and it doesn't always work because it's not apples to apples. It's a completely different context. And it's not just on the field and the rules and the speed of play. It's the fact that you have so many games every week. And if you're in the top 15, you're going to be selected so much more often. And
well, I have this sort of interesting take with my dad, who's a massive Barcelona fan. I mean, like diehard. And his sort of thing was like, I'm always like, hey, the pound for pound best league in the world is Premier League. I think there's no argument there. And he'll be like, no, like, you have no idea. The Spanish clubs are much better. That's why they always win, Champions League or Europa League. And it's like, they do, but I have a theory as to why they do, because the season in the Premier League is so grueling and so demanding, and not to mention the weather is so brutal. There's so many more injuries that's why. I mean, you're talking about all these other competitions that English teams have to play, and then on top of that, turn around and give 100% midweek to Champions League. That's, I think, where the drop off happens. Is like these Premier League teams will get there and they're just gassed. Like they're gassed by the time if they make it quite distance. I mean, Liverpool obviously winning was great for the Premier League, but still, it's like if you look at the last like 12 years, whatever, it's like it's just like a lot of it has been Spanish clubs, and that's the thing. It's like because their season's a bit lighter, and also the league is just not as aggressive, and in terms of defending, in terms of the weather that they have to play in. I mean, so that's just my take on it. I'm sure people will argue that and be like, no, it's not true, but that's just how I see it.
Yeah, I think the top 6 to 8 clubs in the Spanish league are pretty good. I mean, they're battling it out, but all the other teams are. I just think it's a walk in the park for Barcelona. Maybe not this season, but in past seasons, at least for Real Madrid and for Atletico, it's like whatever. They play their weekend games. It's easy, right? But then they're amped up for their midweek Champions League games or Europa League
their
games.
focus is Champions League. Exactly, that's what it is. And I think in the Premier League, it's such a massive. You have to win the Premier League. Like that's a massive focus for teams. That's where I sort of feel like Manchester City is like short, like because they are so. Maybe this is their year, but we'll see. But like they're just it's exhausting. It's just a long season, and it's a very grueling season. But I also think like the weather just doesn't help. You never want to play in Liverpool like right now. Like you just don't. Or in Newcastle, like you just don't want to play those games.
It's true. Yeah, there's weather there, and I'm like, I don't really want to be a professional player.
It's literally raining
snowing,
every game.
and guys coming in with metal studs at your ankle, and they're still playing. I don't know, it's wild weather, but to be honest, it's very similar to the weather we play when we play soccer on this end of the world in the fall over here. I mean, it can get really cold, and it's not always the most pretty football for sure.
Sure.
But let's get into the week coming up, and we're going to throw you the game, and you can give us your score prediction. And we start off with a game that all three of us, Tottenham, Chelsea, and Everton fans, we're going to want Man City to win. And I think it's a rarity when I'm like rooting for Man City week in and week out because, Man City, me. But Man City's playing West Ham. So who do you got in this one?
Yeah, I mean, you said it, Manchester City. Just so sick of looking at West Ham on the table. I mean, so yeah, I mean, listen, it's the way that team's playing right now. Oof, I mean, they're just, I might be the best they
Declan
played.
Rice, Declan Rice and Souček are brutal. They're just like they're machines. They don't
Yeah,
really make a lot of errors, you know.
but City is just so dominant right now. They're just too good. They're too good.
No. City should win, and I pray they win, and Jeff prays they win, and you pray they win because we need that gap to open
Yeah.
up for all three of our teams to fight for minimally top 6 and ideally top 4.
Yeah,
I'm hoping that
I
City
want
win.
West Ham to get knocked down a peg because they got by the skin of their teeth that Tottenham game. I'm them like doing a jig after winning that game is like, come on. They come on. They got some serious luck in that game. It was ridiculous. And if they will not have that luck against a City team that has De Bruyne back, has,
Yeah, man,
Gundinho.
they look unbelievable
Gundinho.
right now. I mean, unbelievable.
John
right
Stone, the reemergence of John Stones.
I mean,
Ruben Diaz.
Ruben Diaz is just that Phil Foden. I mean, let's just talk about the season this kid's having.
Gundogan.
Yeah. By the way, he has the most goals, right?
Yeah, and he's just like does whatever he wants. He's ridiculous.
Yep.
If you looked at this roster and somebody like, woke up from him, they got knocked out and they had amnesia and they didn't know what was going on. He said, you look at this roster, who has the most goals? 99% of the people would not choose Gundogan. It would be some guy being like, "Oh, it's Gundinho."
Yeah, I'd say
it's
100% that people would choose him.
Exactly, because you have Foden, Jesus, if everyone were healthy, Aguero, De Bruyne, Mahrez, Sterling. They're an embarrassment of riches.
Mahrez's left foot is just outrageous. That goal against Everton he scored a couple of weeks ago was just unbelievable. I mean, that is just, there's nothing, you can't defend that. You can't save that as a goalkeeper. It's just too good. He's just too good.
It's too good. Next game.
I'm going to say they're going to win 2-0.
You think 2-0? Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd say 3-1 because I think West Ham will get a goal.
I agree with either of you. By 2 goals. I 3-1 probably because I think they will score because West Ham's, they got Jesse Lingard who is starting on England apparently. West Brom and Brighton. This is a potential candidate for mini bat game of the week because it could be ugly.
It could be real ugly.
I'm really hoping for a Brighton win because I would like to see Fulham escape. So
I'm with you. I am team Fulham, and for multiple reasons, I think they were going to fire their coach and they decided not to. Unlike West Brom, we just completely cut the cord real quick after a draw against City, which is weird. Weird. I think I'm picking. I would like to have Brighton. I'd say it's 1-0. I think it's a pretty dull game, but I'd say it's 1-0. And I'm with you. I think I want Fulham to be successful. I also just love Lookerman because he's an ex Everton boy, and he's tearing it up right now for Fulham.
He is tearing it up right now.
Love that kid. Love that kid.
He's super nice. And if they go down, like somebody's already in his DMs, like
100%.
He's super nasty, and he's probably not even that expensive either.
I think a tie.
Oh, I want Graham Potter to win. I got Graham Potter 1-0.
I like Brighton better, but
yeah.
Next game, Leeds Aston Villa. This is gonna be a good game. It's gonna be a good game.
Is Jack is he injured still?
He is injured. I don't know if he's gonna be ready for this game.
He felt something in his leg. That was the official injury prognosis. Nobody knows what that means.
Yeah, nobody knows. All right, I'm going to pick Leeds. They have been fun to watch. That is one of the probably best counterattacks in all of Premier League football right now, in my opinion. Those guys are so good and so fast and so fun to watch. So I'm going to pick Leeds. I'll say 2-0.
Yeah, they need a bounce back game. They've lost some games.
I agree. I got 2-0 on Leeds.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I love it. It's more because I want that to happen. I don't know if it's going to happen. I just really want that.
Yep.
I like Leeds, man. They're fun. I was, people said at the beginning of the season, if you guys remember, everybody on the desk in Premier League for NBC, they were like, they're going to get relegated. There's no way. I don't know, man. They're tearing it up. They're so good, and they're going to buy more players in this offseason, and they're going to be even better next year. They're fun to watch, though. That coaching, that the style of just that. Really, they remind me of Leicester when Leicester won, the Premier League. It was just that brutal counterattack was so fast and so explosive, and that's what they don't have the talent, but they have the speed and sort of.
They need a couple defenders. That's probably their biggest thing.
Yeah, I agree.
I didn't hear NBC say that, but honestly, sometimes I listen to NBC and I actually just put it on mute and I go along with my day because to think that Leeds is going to come up with Bielsa and be relegated, do they understand the way this works? Like great coaches don't get relegated, and Bielsa is like at the backbone of like all the great coaches out there have learned something from
And they've
Bielsa.
it was obvious they literally watched none of the documentary that was being filmed of them. They literally didn't follow the championship. They don't do their homework because they basically blew the championship out of it. They were a Premier League team in the championship last season.
For sure.
They blew everybody out of the water. And they only didn't get promoted the year before because they just like had some shit luck. They just had kind of like a bad turn of couple games.
And the championship is brutal.
And the championships, and there's 46 games. Anyway, they don't do their homework, and you can't listen to anything they say.
I will find that clip, though, that they said that, and we'll put it on the Bolos and be like, these guys.
Yes.
Yeah. They were picking, I think maybe it was like Robbie must have, but like they just didn't, it was the beginning of the season predictions, and they picked them to go down. Yeah, it was crazy. But listen, it happens every time. Like I thought, well, anyway, we already passed West Brom, but I thought they made a big mistake of firing their coach. I thought that was a bad mistake. I mean,
I don't know why they fired Bilic. They tied City
idea.
At Etihad. I think it was at Etihad. That's ridiculous. One of the teams has 100 times more money on the field. Like to get a tie is so improbable. How do you then fire that? It doesn't reward the players for that good deed.
Listen, I am so happy that Sam Allardyce is tanking. That is the greatest thing. As an Evertonian, I'm like, bro, fuck that guy.
He's rough.
He's never been relegated. He's never been relegated. And I'm going to put out there right now today that if they get close and they're like a couple of weeks out from being relegated, or let's just say like we'll know sooner than later, actually, if they get relegated, I'm calling it now. He resigns. He does not put that on his resume. Because that's the kind of person, that's the shitty person that he is. He will not admit it.
Well, I mean, if he's got a resume like that, he might as well just resign. And then he says he never got relegated, even with 10 games out before it's mathematical. Just say, yeah, I'm done. I don't want to be a part of this project anymore. Like,
exactly what I think he's going to do. I think he's going to do that. He has
they
not
can't
turned
They can't get worse.
Yeah,
can't get any worse.
All right, next game, Newcastle Wolves.
Okay, I'm going to go with Wolves because I think they're turning the page. I'm really like the team too a lot. And they've been doing pretty impressive without Jimenez. I'm gonna pick them. I'm just gonna go 1-0. I don't think it's gonna be like I think Newcastle's gonna put up a fight, but I think it's 1-0, and only for the same reason that I think I want Fulham to survive.
That's exactly my sentiment. I want Fulham. You know, as a Chelsea fan, I'd like to see Fulham stay up and do the escape and see Chelsea top 4, obviously. But I'd really like Fulham to stay up. I think that they have they're one of my favorite teams to watch in the Premier League right now. And I think Scott Parker's I'd like to see a young coach do well also, because after seeing Frank get sacked, they're all part of that same generation.
I also want to see a team like Newcastle who are just like so okay with being mediocre finally get punished by going down to the championship for.
Well, their owners are just shit. I mean, they're just shit. They don't care about that club, and it's so evident in the way that they're treating the organization right now. And it's like they want to get relegated because they get relegated, they can probably sell off the team quicker when they're in a championship. But it's sad, man. It's sad for that fan base. What a legendary club, and to just be the way they are, it's just like we're in a Premier League, so it's okay. Well, you're not gonna be. There's players of and listen, if they get relegated, I want some of them players. Like I want Wilson. I want
Almiron. Almiron's nice.
Okay, sure,
nice.
Like him, but what's his name? I'm drawing a blank. The most explosive player I think they have.
Oh, Maximin.
Yes. Like that dude is fun to watch.
Yeah,
you guys might...
I think you want him if you're going a 3-on-3 in like the streets of LA. The dude doesn't pass.
But he's so fun to watch.
Yeah,
I think Almiron could be a good squad player for another.
Those three guys will definitely stay in the Premier League.
Oh,
without a shadow of a doubt. They'll all go to different teams. Maybe you guys get Wilson, maybe you guys get Maximin. I don't know, but those three will go. Almiron will definitely stay. He's phenomenal as well.
Yeah, it's interesting watching him play because I feel like he just doesn't get tired. He plays 90 minutes at the same pace that he's at 90th minute playing the same pace that it was like minute 2. It's crazy. Yeah, I agree. I think there's no doubt somebody's gonna pick him up. No doubt.
The next game is a London affair. Fulham, Crystal Palace. This is gonna be a good game because we normally on the pod we say no Zaha, no goals, and then this past week they pull off a kind of a crazy. They have Mateta with a the spinning back heel, which is definitely the goal of the month. And then Benteke scores that volley in the 92nd, so that was good for Crystal
95th.
Palace. That's nice. What?
95th.
95th, excuse me. The dying embers of the game. So Crystal Palace Fulham is going to be. I'm actually thinking it's going to be one of the games of the week candidate because they both really kind of need the points. Doesn't want to get close to relegation, and Fulham's clawing to get out. I think I'm going to interject my score prediction. I got Fulham on this 1-0, but I think there's going to be a red card, and I don't know on either side. I just think it's going to be one of those hard-fought matches where a red card is going to happen.
I could see that. I think Fulham as well, but I think it's going to be 2-1 because I do think that Palace will score one. The red card's possible. Yeah, and when you have games like this, a lot's at stake, and yeah, possible. I just think Fulham right now they're playing some exceptional football, and Palace wishy-washy every week. And I think this last win was a massive boost for them, and it's nice to see Benteke obviously get on the score sheet. I also just kind of want Zaha to leave, so I'm gonna go for Fulham.
I think Fulham have played more consistent than Crystal Palace. I think they go out and they play the same way every week. And they lose a lot of nail-biter games, like a lot of 1-0 games, 2-1 games, or tie games. And they've tied a lot of games. So I think every game that they win is well-deserved, and they will win this game 2-1. I agree.
Next game is another potential candidate for the game of the week, Leicester versus Arsenal. Arsenal played much better against Man City than I think many people thought they were going to play. Mm-hmm. They kept it close, and I also just don't think City were as clinical as they normally are and just kind of devastating in the final third.
Right.
But I think this game's going to be great. I think we all want, we're all in the place where it's like, let's let Leicester win and stay ahead of us because we'd rather Arsenal lose and kind of push back. So is that your feeling, Alex?
I think Arsenal's going to win this game. I do. I think Leicester... It's interesting, like they'll have their runs and then they'll sort of like fall off for a bit. And yeah, they're hot, but I don't see Arsenal losing 2 in a row. I think they win this one. I think it'll be a high scoring game. I think it'll be 3-2, but I think Arsenal is going to hopefully, I do think it's going to be high scoring. And I do think that, but I do see Arsenal winning this one.
I think Arsenal have a big defensive problem, especially in their center back, with having to put David Luiz back there all the time. He's just not solid enough. He's easy to get turned. He can just get turned too easy. And I think Maddison and Barnes are just going to boss that midfield.
Vardy's going to have a field day.
But I'm not even really. I think Vardy's kind of like, he's streaky. I think he'll have like a couple of games, then you won't even notice he's on the field. But I think Maddison, the way he can impose himself in the midfield, he can just create chances out of nothing. It's Bruno Fernandes like. He's very good.
James Maddison's phenomenal.
He literally just decided that he wanted to score, and he was just like, I'll push the ball to the right. Oh, I'll slot it bottom right hand corner. Oh, yep, I scored. Yep, very good.
I agree with that. I think he's probably one of the best players in the Premier League right now for sure. I don't know. I just don't see Arsenal losing 2 in a row. I don't, and I know they're 2 big teams.
Yeah,
but.
I agree it's going to be close. I agree it's going to be close. I don't think it's going to be a 1-0 game either. I think like 2-1 is Leicester.
You're going 2 Leicester. Alex got 3-2. I don't even know. I can't even make a judgment. Both these teams have been so streaky all season. They've just gone up and down. They've lost big games. So I don't know. It's going to be. That's why I think it's going to be the game of the week. Next game, Spurs versus Burnley. Jeff, what do you think about that one? Your boy's gonna. You're going to lift the cup?
Play a midweek game against the Austrian Farmers.
Oh, my God.
In Wolfsberger. But I think it's going to be a heavy rotated game. We're already up 4-1.
When you guys played Wolfsberger, Bale looked like Bale in like 2014.
It was correct.
He was cutting dudes up. All these dudes that played like D2 in college and went over and sweated, just to play in Austria were just getting diced.
Yeah.
Bale's like samurai ponytail was flaring in the wind.
Let's be real. Bale was the best player against West Ham this past weekend.
Oh yeah, for
Easily.
Sure. Does Bale start?
It's hard to make that prediction right now because the game on Wednesday will just pretty much we'll know because Jose always does like a 60-30 like squad rotation type
Split,
thing.
Yeah.
And so if he doesn't start on Wednesday, he will definitely start against Burnley.
Do you guys beat Burnley?
I don't like to make predictions. I think it's going to be, but I think they're gonna tie. I think it's gonna be 1-1 tie.
All right, I think Tottenham's going to win 2-0. I think it's going to be a pretty easy game. I like Burnley and I like Sean Dyche a lot actually as a coach. What he's done with that team is with very little money has been impressive. But I think Tottenham's going to win it. I think they have to bounce. They have to bounce back. It's like no other way about it. Like you have to bounce back.
I concur. I think Tottenham win by 2 goals.
I think actually they played again on any other day. They would have won. They would have at least tied the game on Sunday. So, and if they had tied it, it wouldn't be like such a dumpster fire as it is now. It would still be a 9th or 8th or whatever it is, but it would definitely have like people would be like, oh yeah, Tottenham will win the game on Sunday against Burnley and it'll be no problem. But now everybody's like, what's the back line going to look like this week? Another Sanchez-Dyer center back pairing? Oh God, he's never going to play. Rodon, they signed him and he's never going to play and never going to give him any minutes. But I think actually they'll give him minutes. On Sunday on midweek. They'll give him minutes midweek and see how it goes. I still think Toby Alderweireld is their best center back. I don't know what his deal is and why he didn't play on Sunday. I think it's ridiculous that the whole fitness thing is in question because everybody plays midweek, and if you can't play 2 games in a row and you're a professional football player, I think I have serious questions for you.
Maybe you shouldn't be a professional,
especially as a center back who doesn't run up and down the field.
True.
Unbelievable.
We're going to the next game.
We can talk about Spurs
you
all
get
day.
sucked into the Spurs vortex.
I'm telling you right now, they're going to win. If they lose, then I think that there's conversations of Jose being fired.
Sure.
Because I just don't see them. But I don't see them losing. I see them actually dominating the game from the first whistle, and I think it's going to be 2-0. And that's me being very polite to Burnley at 2-0.
I agree.
Thank you.
Next game is you're welcome. Next game is the potential candidate for game of the week, although it could be snooze fest of the week because every time Manchester United plays a team of any quality, it can be the most boring game. So it's Chelsea versus Man U. And last time that happened, it ended 0-0, and I just wanted to poke my eyes out.
It was gouge my eyes out. I was like 90 minutes.
And it was the same thing when Man U played Liverpool. Gouge my eyes out. It was Bruno Fernandes running around the field, making triangles with himself, serving in balls on a platter, and Martial pooping himself. And if I have to see that again, I'm going to be so... I may not even watch this game, honestly. And Chelsea's my team, and I'd love to see them beat United. But it's so brutal, some of these games. So brutal. So I'm going to go a wild stat here. I'm going to go 3-0 Chelsea. Because why not? Fuck it. Maybe Timo Werner scores a goal, maybe not. United's been another team that for me has kind of been up and down because they'll win a game and then they'll win in the Champions League and then they come home and they'll lose to a relegation team. And then they'll beat a top team, and then they'll tie a mid-table team. Chelsea, we haven't really really done anything under Tuchel. I think, as Nick said today, he was texting me, my buddy Nick, who was on last year. He's a City fan. He was like, honestly, the schedule has been kind to Tuchel. He hasn't really had that yet, and he's going to have it. So I guess my hope is that we do well enough against Atletico midweek that we kind of have a little bit of self-confidence, and we kind of get into this game in the weekend. And we realize that if we lose, that's probably expected. So when you go into a game where you're probably expected to lose, you have nothing to lose. Just go out, play loose, knock the ball around, and let's see what happens. I think United is one of the teams in the top 6 that can just be so bad when they want to be. I'm taking Liverpool out of that equation, out of that conversation. But United, sometimes they can just be mind-blowingly bad. So I'm going to go Chelsea 3-0, and that is a wild stat. But if they win 3-0, that'll be fun.
I'm going to tell you why they're not going to. I'm going to tell you why they're not going to win. Then I'll give Alex a chance. I'm going to tell you why Chelsea are going to lose this game. And it's because
this is brutal.
Manchester.
I was giving you support. I know you're in Spurs therapy, and I was like, Spurs are going to win.
No, I mean Manchester United have a very kind midweek Europa League draw where they're up by I think 3 or 4 goals, and they don't have to. They can play their scrubs. They can go play shore tire, 16-year-old, 17-year-old kid. I'm legit. I'm 100% serious. That's going to factor in. They get to rest all their starters midweek, and you have to go play Atletico away.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's not going to be I mean, they could surprise, but it's not suddenly Werner's going to turn into a Ronaldinho.
Werner's going to score 2 goals in the weekend. We're beating United 3-0. I'm putting it out in the world. I'm manifesting a little, Jeff. Believe a little.
He might not even play. They might not even play him.
Yeah, they might have put him down like a lame horse by then.
He's gonna play midweek. He's gonna play against Atletico.
If there's anything Werner can do, he can run around a lot. So.
Okay.
All right, Alex. What do you think?
What do you?
I think it's going to be a draw. I think it's going to be probably like maybe 2-2.
Burn my eyes
I could see.
out.
I could see. I mean, I could see it being like a 2-2 or even a 3-3. I could see it being a shootout. I agree with you with the statement of United can just sort of not show up. They've done that. I'm still salty at Chelsea for getting rid of Frank Lampard. I think that was a mistake. I know people will be like, "Oh, look what tools are like." He's like hasn't lost a single game. Yeah, sure, whatever. Not like they've been remarkable under him as well. I just think it's a draw. I don't see big point there though made by about midweek games. Yeah, that's a tough one. Is the game in Atletico or is it in?
No, it's a neutral site in like Bulgaria or something.
Yeah, it's in God knows where.
It's literally in the middle of nowhere, Europe.
That's weird.
Shout out to all of our Bulgarian fans. Jeff didn't mean that.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think we'll see, but I think it's going to be a great game. I don't see it being a snooze fest, though. I see both coaches going for it. I think both, managers will set their teams up to win. Is Cavani back, or was he injured, or was he suspended? I don't remember. I hate that guy now.
Yeah,
he should have got a red card against Everton when he choke slammed Jarrett, but the referee didn't see anything.
He totally should have.
I don't know why VR.
Well, I'm excited when Chelsea win this 3-0.
I'll eat my words. That's fine. I think it's going to be.
Imagine if they went 3-0 though. You think 2-2? Honestly, as long as there's goals, because last time I watched 90 minutes of no goals, and I honestly could have gone outside and just shoveled.
I think it's a bigger game for Chelsea for sure. Like Chelsea need the points way
we need the points big time.
more for Manchester United.
And that's the other thing. I think that when you have one team that needs the points, and United they can like United's gonna finish top 4, and they're probably not gonna win the league. So now we're really just talking about whether they finish in second or third. And when you get comfortable.
Atletico is gonna do some damage to you guys.
Oh, Atletico's gonna. They're gonna mini bat us. They're gonna mini bat us.
Emotionally, physically, spiritually.
Dude, Mason Mount is gonna be in therapy by Wednesday.
Luis Suarez is gonna have his way with you guys.
You know that game's tomorrow. I think that game's tomorrow.
Oh, 23rd.
It's in like 24
tomorrow, the 23rd.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're probably over there right now.
Chelsea's already over there training. They got Havertz starting in goal. All right, next game. Sheffield, Liverpool. Is there a way that Chris Wilder's men beat Liverpool? I mean, Liverpool is a wounded beast right now. If they're going to beat Liverpool, now is the time.
It's hard because you're like, man, is Liverpool really going to lose again? And but I just see it happening. Hey, if Manchester United can, then so can they.
If Sheffield win this game, I think everyone in the Premier League will be happy. Honestly.
For sure.
But Liverpool fans.
Well, did you see that they're putting up like Jurgen Klopp out at Anfield? Like they're putting up like signs that say they want him out now, which I think is just absurd. I think it just speaks volumes to Liverpool fans. That's all I'm going to say. But I just think the comments that he said was after, I don't remember what Chris has said about Jurgen. I don't remember what it was about. That's something that like Jurgen complaining about like the substitutions or whatever it was during COVID time, and obviously Jurgen clapped back at him. But I think that there's going to be some sort of let's be honest. Sheffield doesn't have much to play for. They know they're going to get relegated at this point. Unless barring any miracle, they're just going to get relegated, right? So the one thing you want to do, and what I respect that organization for doing, is sticking with the manager, right? They could have fired him a long time ago, but they stuck with him because they know that if they go down to the championship, he's probably going to be the guy to bring him back up. I think this team's going to fight for him. They're going to fight for their manager. They're going to be like, no, we're going to do us, our manager, a favor, and like you said, the Premier League a favor. So I see like I'd see 1-0, yeah.
It's at Bramall Lane. I got 1-0 Sheffield because I love an underdog story.
Then look what that means. That means that Sheffield then beats United and beats Liverpool in 3 weeks or 4 weeks? Apart?
Yeah, and they still get relegated. That's how brutal the Premier League is.
There you go. Yeah.
The team that gets relegated domestically beats two of the biggest clubs in the world in world football history.
Yeah.
Finally, last game, Everton versus Southampton. Is there a way that you guys don't win this game?
I mean, yes, because Everton love to just suck against teams that they should be winning. That's just like being an Everton fan for you. Like they'll put up an amazing game against the top, 4 teams, and then they just go blues to Newcastle or Fulham. Like that's just the Everton way. It's like everyone says, Everton, aren't we? Like that. Like that's really what it is. So I think, Southampton's on the slide right now. I think they've lost, I don't remember how many games. I think they've lost 6 games in a row.
They lost 6 games, and then they tied against Chelsea because we just love tying.
So Chelsea's in the same boat as Everton. So I think it's going to be a very, very tough game because I see Southampton, obviously, like they don't want, and we'll see. But God, I need Everton to win. Like, please, like, just like beat a team that we're supposed to win. Like, and I mean, we already lost to them this year.
Yeah, my problem with Southampton is like you'll have the midfield, James Ward-Prowse, like bossing people around, like scoring on free kicks and stuff. You'll have like Minamino scoring goals, and then the next game like you don't even know he's there. Bednarak's giving out red cards and like kicking the ball in his own net and like I think Bednarak is not that great, so I think that it's a really big opportunity for Everton, for Richarlison and Hummus to have their way.
DCL's going to do
And if
Samba.
DCL plays, I mean, if DCL's healthy and he's going to play 90 minutes, then I think that's great.
If anything, I was questioning about him coming into the Liverpool game, but that run to get that penalty kick, like that run from him, if you watch it, there's no problems with that hamstring.
Yeah,
that boy outsprinted Trent like he was flying. So I could see him starting. But we'll see. Listen, we should win this game. But Jesus, being an Everton fan, every single week is like it's a box of chocolate. You never know what you're gonna get. It's really like 1 week you're like incredible, 1 week you're just awful.
Sure.
I mean, I think all of our teams have been doing that most of the season. So.
I think every team except for basically Manchester City has been doing that.
Manchester City has been.
But even they had a little bit of a weird slump, like in December, remember? And that's when I wish we played them because they had to postpone the game due to the COVID outbreak in their squad. And I wish that Everton played them then because I think we would have been able to maybe at least draw or win. But playing them recently, it was just brutal.
Super brutal.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I was going to go over fantasy, but I was just looking, and the only thing that has changed on the entire fantasy board is I went up 1, you went up 1, and Diego went down into relegation.
Oh,
so that's fantasy.
Cool.
That's good.
That's great.
Well, Alex, thank you for joining us all the way from the best coast, the West Coast.
That's right. Thanks, guys, for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking forward to getting Everton jersey on the wall.
Yeah, I don't know if Ellen's going to be happy. Ellen gave us this. She's a big Liverpool fan, but it's going to be interesting that Everton and Liverpool will be hanging out so close. Maybe should we divide them up a little more?
As long as it goes over the crest of Liverpool, I'm good. I'll send you 2. I'll send you 2 jerseys just for that.
There we go.
Oh, my God. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining. And, we're excited to continue to see what Everton do because if Everton were to finish top 6, that's huge. Huge for Don Carlo, huge for the club.
Huge for the Premier League.
Huge for the Premier League and huge for all those players. And so, yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Listen, it's easy to forget that we used to not be a legendary club, but we are. So, all right, guys, have a good one.
Thanks a lot. Ciao.
Ciao.
Is that Everton never get the derby right emotionally. They're either too up for it and they get players sent off, or they're absolutely terrified going into games, certainly at Anfield. And the reason I say Ancelotti won Everton that game was he took the emotion out the game with the team he picked. So when that team came in, Evertonians getting ready for the game, the heart sank. No Calvert-Lewin and no Alan. Now, Alan hadn't played for 2 months. Calvert-Lewin has come back from a hamstring injury, so it's the right decision. But because emotionally at times, Everton, the derby's like the biggest game they have to win. Roberto Martinez told me a story where he almost felt pressured to play Gareth Barry in a derby game at Anfield, and he wasn't 100% fit. He got injured, they lost the game, and he missed an FA Cup semi-final, and he always looks back at that as a huge regret. Ancelotti, again, this is 3 points for our European ambitions. Forget Liverpool.
Thanks for listening to the Boys and Bolos podcast. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Patreon, Twitch at Boys and Bolos.
If you'd like to be a guest, please reach out. You can hit us on any of the social media accounts that Jeff just mentioned, or email us directly at boysandbolos@gmail.com.
Thanks for listening, and see you next time.